found my maid sitting on my kitchen floor at 3 a.m, sobbing into the tiny heads of 2 babies strapped to her body, one on her chest, one on her back. And when she looked up at me with those swollen, terrified eyes, I knew my entire world was about to shatter. Let me back up, because what happened next doesn't make sense without understanding how we got here. And trust me, by the time I'm done, you'll understand why I made the choice I did. The one that cost me everything and gave me everything all at once. My name is David Cole, and 6 months ago, I had it all figured out. At 34, I'd built a tech company from nothing. But I wasn't happy. Hey friends, thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to comment where you are watching from. Someone close to you might be watching too. Like, share, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a story. Make sure to watch till the very end, because the final twist is something you definitely don't want to miss. So let's continue. My wife, Victoria, was beautiful in the way that makes photographers beg for just one shot. We'd been married for 3 years, and somewhere in year 2 I'd stopped recognizing her. Or maybe she'd stopped recognizing me. We moved around each other like ghosts in that big apartment, talking about dinner plans and vacation spots, never about the fact that we'd become strangers who shared a bed. That's when I hired Lily. She showed up on a Tuesday morning, sent by an agency, wearing jeans that had been washed so many times they were almost white, and a smile that seemed too big for someone applying to clean rich people's toilets. She was 26, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and hands that never stopped moving, like she was afraid if she stayed still too long, someone would notice her and send her away. "I work hard," she said during the interview, looking me straight in the eye. "I don't steal. I don't gossip. I just need this job." There was something in her voice, something desperate and honest, that made me hire her on the spot. For 3 months, Lily was just part of the background. She came in early, left late, and the apartment always smelled like lemons and lavender when she was done. Victoria barely acknowledged her existence, too busy with her yoga classes and charity luncheons and whatever else filled the days of women who didn't need to work. But I noticed Lily. Not in the way you might think, not at first anyway. I noticed how she'd stopped to water the plant by the window, the one Victoria said was already dead. I noticed how she'd arrange my books by color when she dusted, creating these little rainbows on the shelves. I noticed how she'd hum while she worked, old songs that sounded like they came from another lifetime. And I noticed how she'd go completely silent whenever Victoria came home. It was small stuff. The way Lily's shoulders would tense up. The way she'd make herself smaller, like she was trying to disappear into the walls. The way Victoria would leave messes right after Lily had cleaned, just to watch her clean them again. "That's what we pay her for," Victoria said once, dropping an entire glass of red wine on the white carpet, her eyes locked on Lily's face. "Isn't it?" I should have said something then. I should have seen what was coming. But here's the thing about people like me, people with money, people with power. We get good at not seeing things. We get good at pretending everything's fine, because acknowledging the mess means we have to clean it up. Everything changed on a Thursday night in September. I came home early from a meeting around 7 and found the apartment dark except for a light coming from the guest bedroom. The one we never used, the one at the end of the hall that still had boxes from our move stacked in the corner. The door was cracked open, and I heard crying. Not sad crying, angry crying. The kind that comes from somewhere deep and broken. I pushed the door open. Lily was sitting on the bed, phone pressed to her ear, her free hand clutching her stomach. She didn't hear me come in. "I can't come back," she was saying, her voice raw. "Mama, please, I can't, because I have nothing. I have nothing to bring home. I send you everything I make, and it's still not enough." She listened, tears running down her face, and then her voice dropped to something that sounded like begging. "The babies need me there, I know they miss me. Tell them Mama loves them. Tell them I'm coming back soon with enough money to—" She saw me then, standing in the doorway, and her face went white. The phone slipped from her hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered, scrambling to stand up, wiping at her face with her sleeve. "I'm so sorry. I should have asked before using this room. I just needed a quiet place to—" "You have kids?" The question came out harder than I meant it to. She flinched. "Yes," Her voice was barely there. Twins, a boy and a girl. They're 7 months old. They're with my mother, back in my hometown, 4 hours away. I can't afford an apartment here and childcare, so I send money home and I visit when I can and She broke down again, right there in front of me. This woman who I'd seen scrub my floors and fold my clothes and smile through every day, crumbling like she'd been holding herself together with tape and prayer. "I'm a terrible mother," she sobbed. "I had to choose between keeping them close with nothing or leaving them safe while I work, and either way I lose. Either way they grow up without me." Something in my chest cracked open. I'd spent 3 years in a marriage with a woman who didn't want children, who flinched whenever someone brought up babies at dinner parties, who'd made me promise before we got married that kids were off the table. I'd agreed because I loved her, or thought I did, or maybe just because I was tired of being alone. But standing there, watching Lily fall apart over children she'd sacrificed everything for, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt something real. "Take tomorrow off," I said quietly. "Go see your kids. I'll pay you for the day." She looked up at me like I'd just offered her the world. Really? Really? That night after she left, I sat in the dark living room and thought about my life. Victoria came home around midnight, smelling like wine and someone else's cologne. She didn't even look at me as she walked past. Over the next few weeks, something shifted. Lily started staying later, not because she had to, but because we'd talk. Real talks. About her kids, about her dreams, about the life she wanted to build, about how she'd left an abusive boyfriend who'd drained their savings on gambling, how she'd fled with nothing but her babies and her mother's address, how every dollar she made was a step toward bringing them here, to the city, to a real life. "I want them to have chances," she said one night, folding laundry in the kitchen while I pretended to work on my laptop. "I want them to go to good schools. I want them to never feel like they're not enough." "You're a good mum," I told her. She smiled, but it was sad. "Good mums don't leave their babies. Good mums do whatever it takes to give their babies a future." Something passed between us then. Something dangerous. Victoria noticed, of course. Women like Victoria always notice when they're losing something they never wanted in the first place. She started coming home earlier, started asking questions about why Lily was still there at 8, 9, 10 at night, started making comments about how attached I seemed to the help. "She's just an employee, David," Victoria said one night, her voice sharp. "Remember that." But she wasn't. Not anymore. I was falling in love with Lily, and worse, I was falling in love with the idea of her children, these 2 babies I'd never met, who existed in photographs on her phone and stories she'd tell with her whole face lit up. It was wrong. I knew it was wrong. I was married. She worked for me. The power dynamic alone was a nightmare. But when has knowing something's wrong ever stopped a heart from wanting it anyway? The night everything exploded was 3 weeks ago. I came home to find Victoria in the bedroom, Lily's phone in her hand, scrolling through messages with a smile that made my blood run cold. "Your little maid has been telling her mother about you," Victoria said sweetly. "About how kind you are, how different from other men, how safe you make her feel." She threw the phone on the bed. "How long have you been sleeping with her?" "I haven't. Don't lie to me." Her voice cracked like a whip. "I'm not stupid, David. I see how you look at her. How you light up when she walks in the room. You never looked at me like that. Because you never let me." The words ripped out of me, months of silence breaking open. "You married me for the money and the status, and we both know it. You don't love me. You don't even like me." She went very still. "No," she said softly. "I don't. But you're mine, and I don't share." That's when I heard the front door open. Lily, coming in for her evening shift, calling out a hello that died in her throat when she saw us.